Welcome to Deck Analysis and Testing. I know that's a bit late, but let's finally have a look at Gemini. Gemini is a terrible game mechanic in Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, all Gemini monsters are normal monsters on the field or graveyard until you spend a second normal summon on them, which will turn them into effect monsters and give them effects. Not only does that mean that any relevant Gemini strategy would need to use other spells and traps to make them remotely playable, because, they're just vanilla before you summon them a second time, their on-field effects aren't even that good. But as you know, there is no such thing as a terrible strategy in the wonderful game of Duel Links, as long as Mr. John Konami decides to graciously grant them a broken skill. And, well, all things considered, this Gemini skill does it in a pretty straightforward but effective way by just giving you some of the most broken Gemini supporting spell traps for absolutely free. Turns out having a face-up Gemini Ablation on turn 1 pretty much fixes all the problems that Geminis have, and a free Gemini Spark and double summon going second gives you a free pop before you commit to anything relevant. Let's have a look at the cards real quick. Despite using a lot of Gemini monsters, this deck is still a variant of a Immortal Phoenix Gear deck, so we are playing one copy of this card. It is a monster negate by sending a equip spell from your field to graveyard, but you can summon this card by banishing the free Phoenix Gear Blade from your graveyard that you get from your skill, so that you will always have a equip spell equipped to it that you can send to the graveyard to negate a monster effect. You can also summon this card from your deck and then send something like Amazement Trap that is treated as an equip spell to the graveyard to do negate monster effect, and that will still work. We also have a copy of Great Shogun Shien because it is a fire warrior that we can summon with Gemini Ablation. It only lets your opponent, actually I think it lets both players, no wait, it only lets your opponent. Okay, your opponent can only activate one spell trap card each turn. So it's a floodgate. It's basically a floodgate. It's pretty good against heroes or other decks that use a lot of spell traps, and it generally just annoys your opponent and makes them a lot harder to play their combos. We have our main Gemini monsters. We have 3 of them. We have one copy of Gemini's Lord Gold Knight. This has the usual Gemini monster effects that I won't repeat. But when it's summoned a second time, you can search a spell trap that has a Gemini monster in its text. The card we're going to be searching is always going to be Gemini Spark. This card is pretty good. You get it for free with your skill when you go second, but it's also a pretty good card in general, so we're playing 3 copies in this free-to-play version. You can tribute a level 4 Gemini monster, and then pop a card on the field, and then draw a card. Importantly, this does not need the monster to be in the Gemini monster form, so you can just normal summon a Gemini monster without its effects, and then just use this card to tribute that monster, and then get a pop and get a free draw. Pretty good going first, also really good going second as well. We have 3 copies of Blazewing Butterfly, a really old Gemini monster that has been in Duel Links for a really long time. This card can tribute itself to revive a Gemini monster from the graveyard, and it gains its effects. And the monster you will be summoning, other than the Gold Knight, is usually going to be this card. Evocator, whatever. This card is a Fire Warrior, and when it's summoned a second time, can revive a Fire Warrior monster or a Gemini monster in your graveyard. It does not gain its effects, but it's a free monster, so it's pretty good. You can use that to revive any of your big Fire Warriors, like your Gearfried or your Shiens, as just a big guy. Or you can also revive a copy of Blazewing Butterfly because it tributes itself for cost. And then you can use the 2 level 4s to make a rank 4, which we're playing a lot of. For the back row, we're playing, other than the Gemini Sparks, we have, of course, the Gemini Ablation, which is really useful for the deck in general. The skill gets you to this card for free, and even if you draw it, it's not bad, because the skill allows you to search a Fire Warrior if you set it from your hand. This card has 2 effects. You can only use one of them per turn, and only during the main phase. You can discard 1 card, and then special summon a Gemini monster from your deck and gain its effects. Or you can instead tribute a Gemini monster and then special summon a Fire Warrior monster from your hand or deck and then if you tributed a Gemini monster that has its effects, you can pop a card for free. During your turn, you'll basically always be using the summon effect, summon a Gemini monster effect to get your plays started. And then during your opponent's turn, if you have a Gemini monster on your field left over, you can use it to pop a card your opponent controls and then get access to something like a Great Shogun Shien as a floodgate, or you can also get a Gearfried as a monster negate. We have a lot of other traps. Not too many traps because this deck does always have the ablation in your back row, so you just pretty much only 2 slots left, and one of them may be occupied by an equip spell. So we're playing 6 other traps to fill in that slot. This deck is pretty good going first because of the traps that we're playing, but also not bad going second because of the Gemini Sparks that we get for free from the skill and also the ones that we're playing. So the traps we're playing are 1 copy of Floodgate Trouble and 1 Time Space for the Rafflesia in our extra deck. And then we're playing 2 Horror House and 2 Throw Trains. These, as I said in the introduction for Phoenix Gearfried, also acts as an equip spell, which is pretty useful for you to send to the graveyard as a negate. But usually you will want to use their effects as well. For the extra deck, it's just a bunch of rank 4s and other Xyz monsters that we can make on top of our rank 4s. We have 1 copy of Dempsey, which is a wonderful free to obtain rank 4. You can use it to grab any of your Fire Warriors, which are your play starters. We have 1 copy of Rafflesia, which is a very good part of our turn 1 end board. It helps you interrupt your opponent. We have 1 copy of Vespanato that will usually be ranked on top of a Rhapsody in Berserk after you use its effect to banish stuff from your opponent's graveyard. We have 1 copy of Antiluminescent Knight to redirect targeting effects. We have, some random other rank 4s like Baromet, the Ouroboros. We have the Dreadnought to rank up into a Great Magnus. Just more options that we could theoretically make. Let's quickly talk about its skill as well. I quickly talked over it during the introduction, but we can dive into it in more detail now. It locks you into only summoning basically level 4 Gemini monsters and non-level 4 Fire Warrior monsters, and it has 2 effects. You can reveal a Gemini monster or a Ablation in your hand, and then send a free Gear Blade from outside your deck to your graveyard. It's an equip spell that you can banish with Gearfried. And then you can play a Gemini Ablation from your deck or hand face up to your field. And if you placed it from your hand, you also get to search a Fire Warrior for free. If your opponent controls a card and you don't, you can add a double summon and a Gemini Spark both from outside your deck to your hand, which massively helps going second because you just get to pop something with the Spark before you even, use the skill's first effect to set your Ablation, which is very vulnerable to any sort of removal. So with that said, let's have a look at the expensive version. Okay, so this is the expensive version that I am playing. Some people play a little bit of variations in the deck. Some people play Astolfo, some people play some people who don't play this card. There are a bit of optimizations you can make with this deck specifically because of the stuff that you can do with all of the Fire Warriors, but this is what I play. I have a Utopia package in the extra deck that you can use by having the Phoenix Gearblade, allowing your Utopia the Lightning to attack 2 times and use its effect twice by ranking a Utopia and then a Utopia Ray and then finally a Utopia the Lightning. So it has enough materials to detach 2 materials 2 times. And then we're playing the Infernoble package, which is pretty standard in expensive versions of Geminis. Not much to say here. The Necrogana is searchable from the Roland. So yeah, with that said, let's have a look at some games. Okay, our first replay is against Earthbound, whatever the Eagle Earthbound is called. We're going second which is, you know, not the best. We because of the amount of traps we're playing, we do slightly prefer going first, but going second is not bad just because of what the skill gives us for free. Our opponent is going to combo off a bit with, you know, Thunder Dragons to get more stuff in their hand. And then just gonna go through the combo, and unfortunately because of the skill restrictions, they can't actually hand rip us turn 1, which is a good thing. I don't think, you know, hand ripping is good for the game, but, you know, that's just something that the deck is not allowed to do. So even though they can very easily summon the Earthbound Immortal that hand rips, they can't actually use the effect. I'm gonna go Greater Line Walker to grab a Raska, and then make a Cyber Slash Geoglyph, grabbing a free Interruption, which is a pop. They're gonna Tribute Summon the Earthbound, and we'll take a bit of damage from the Line Walker, the set 2, and let's see what we can do. Drawing the Xian is not very good, but we can still discard it, so that's not too big of a deal. We're gonna go and normal summon any Gemini, and then use our Gemini Spark to clear one of our opponent's back row. And then let's use our skill so that we have a equip spell in our graveyard. And then we're gonna search the Phoenix because we set a trap from our hand. And then that forces out the back row. And then now that our opponent has no more interruptions, we can go and summon a Gemini and revive the Phoenix. And then attack over the Cyber Slash, equip the Earthbound Immortal to our monster, and then our opponent doesn't have any follow-up, so they will be scooping. Okay, so game 2 is a pretty interesting one. We are facing a mirror match, and our opponent is, of course, playing the expensive version of the same deck. They're gonna have access to all the good Info Noble stuff, a lot of good Xyz monsters, you know, just overall a much better deck than what we were playing. But that doesn't mean that we can't play. We do have the Gemini Spark in our hand, and Ablation, which means that we can search anything we want from our skill. So we'll let our opponent play a bit, and we'll see if we can crack their board. They're going to search a Gemini Spark themselves, which is pretty annoying, which means we have to force out their back row before we commit to the first effect of the skill. Otherwise, if we activate the trap while they still have the Gemini Spark, they can just simply pop it, and then we're gonna be really sad. So they're gonna make Infernal Charles, and they're playing Astolfo. And one advantage of playing Astolfo is that it's a little bit easier to make Charles with a free Gemini on their field for them to tribute with the Ablation. We're gonna go and activate the Gemini Spark to clear the trap first, because the deck without the trap is not very strong, because Geminis themselves are just weak. The thing that makes all the Geminis strong is the trap, exactly. We're gonna Gemini Spark again by double summoning another Gemini monster and clearing the Charles so that they can't use the Charles to pop the Ablation. And that's unfortunately it. We have to tank the Gemini Spark that we knew they added to their hand, and that still doesn't end our turn. We can still summon the Gear that we searched, and that's one monster to gate. And we have a Rapid Racing that I was trying out in an earlier version of this deck. It's not very good, as I figured out, so it did not make it to the final version, but in this case it's still useful for stopping them from making rank 4. Did they go Phoenix? We'll negate the Phoenix, they'll just scoop it up. Okay, let's have a look finally at the expensive version ourselves. Our opponent is playing Fleur. I don't exactly remember what other deck they have mixed in with the Fleur skill, but it's Fleur. We're gonna open with a Blazewing Butterfly, summoning back the Evocator, which will summon back the Blazewing Butterfly. We drew the equip spell, which is not ideal, but it's fine. That means we just don't need to search it. We're gonna go into a Roland and then use its effect, which allows us to add the Gardener during the end phase. We're gonna go Gearfried to banish the Gear Blade, which will add itself back. And then equip the the Eclipse Spell that we drew. And then roll an effect in the end phase. We will unfortunately need to send a Supervise because we have no other Eclipse Spells to send. We're gonna negate the Flare because we really don't want the trap to leave our field. They're gonna go Supe into Status Charge Warrior. Why is everybody on... Why is all of the people I face playing Earthbound? I really have no idea. They're gonna go and use the skill again to get more bodies on the field. We're gonna pop their tuners so that they can't go into a synchro. And then they can't really out the Gemini Ablation as well as the 2 guys on our field, so they're just gonna scoop it up.